I'm 29F. My parents are suing Maine for custody of my daughter. Growing up, my relationship with my parents was always tight. They were the kind of parents who called every day, wanted to know where I was going, who I was going, and every detail of my life. I used to think it was because they cared, but looking back, it was definitely more than that. I'm 29 now, and I can see that they've always had this need to control things around them. It wasn't something I paid much attention to when I was younger, but now I realize how deep it goes. The real turning point for me came when I found out I was expecting at 22. It was an unplanned child with my partner at the time, who was 30. We were both caught off guard and had no idea how we were going to manage. Neither of us felt ready, but after a lot of tough conversations, we decided to keep the baby. That baby is Emma, my beautiful 6-year-old daughter. From the moment I told my parents, they jumped right in. To be fair, I was scared and needed help. So at first, their support was a lifesaver. They helped me get set up with everything I needed for Emma, and my mom was always there, ready to lend a hand. But their involvement quickly shifted from being helpful to overbearing. They were always in our business, coming over unannounced, making decisions about Emma without even asking me, and treating my role as her mother like a secondary thought. When Emma was 3, her dad and I broke up. We had been struggling for a while and it just wasn't working. He stayed involved in her life, but it wasn't long before my parents started stepping in even more. They began picking Emma up from school without telling me, making her doctor's appointments, and even enrolling her in extracurricular activities without asking. I tried to brush it off at first, thinking it was just their way of helping out, but as time went on, it became clear that they were taking control. It didn't take long before I started noticing changes in how they were handling things. They were switching Emma's diet, putting her on some weird meal plan without telling me, and worst of all, they started disciplining her in ways I didn't agree with. I'd ask them to do things a certain way, and they'd completely ignore me. It felt like they didn't respect me as Emma's mother. The argument started soon after. Anytime I tried to assert myself, it turned into a fight. They'd act like I was overreacting, or they'd say they knew what was best for Emma because they had raised me just fine. It didn't matter how many times I told them to back off or respect my decisions, they just kept pushing back. Things escalated fast. And before I knew it, my relationship with my parents was at a breaking point. What really hurt was how they began subtly implying that I was unfit. They'd drop little comments about how I was missing Emma's school events because of work, or how I'd forget a dentist appointment here and there. They were keeping track of every mistake I made as a mother, and it felt like they were using it against me. They'd even bring up how I'd had a few rough patches, including a DUI when I was 21, which was ancient history at this point. But they'd still throw it in my face. Looking back, the red flags were all there, but I ignored them. I didn't want to believe that my own parents were plotting against me. I thought they were just being protective, and that eventually things would calm down. I was wrong. About a year ago, everything exploded. Out of nowhere, I was served legal papers. My parents were filing for joint custody of Emma. Their reasoning? They claimed I was neglecting her and couldn't provide a stable environment. They brought up every little thing. My work schedule, the times I had to stay late, the fact that they'd been paying for a lot of Emma's stuff because I couldn't always afford it. At first, I was in shock. I mean, these were my parents. How could they do this? But my lawyer didn't seem as surprised as I was. She told me that because my parents had been so involved in Emma's life, they actually had a pretty strong case. The fact that they had provided so much financial support and had essentially taken over many aspects of her care made it look like they were the stable ones. The court process has been a nightmare. I felt betrayed in every possible way. My own parents are trying to take my daughter away from me, and they don't even see it as wrong. They say they're just trying to do what's best for Emma, but it's tearing me apart. What's worse, my ex has even sided with them on some things. He's been saying that I've struggled to balance work and being a mom, which yes, I have, but it's not like I'm abandoning Emma. I'm doing the best I can. The first court appearance left me shaken. The judge seemed more sympathetic to my parents than I expected. They played the role of the doting grandparents so well, talking about how they'd been there for Emma every step of the way, and how they provided her with stability when I was too overwhelmed to do it. Meanwhile, I was made to look like a stressed-out single mom who couldn't handle it all. Things have only gotten worse from there. People at work found out about the case, and now I feel like everyone's judging me. I'm struggling to keep my job because the emotional toll is too much. I feel like my whole life is falling apart, and no matter what I do, it's never enough. I'm here because I don't know what else to do. Has anyone else been through something like this? How do you fight your own parents in court and not lose everything in the process? I just want to keep my daughter, but I feel like the walls are closing in on me. Update 1. So things have gotten a lot worse since I last posted. I thought my parents filing for joint custody was the worst of it, but I had no idea how much they were already controlling behind my back. It started with a meeting at Emma's school. I had been trying to stay more involved, so I scheduled a meeting with her teacher to discuss her progress. I walked into the room expecting a simple parent-teacher chat, but instead I was blindsided. Apparently, my parents had already been having regular conversations with her teacher for months. They had positioned themselves as Emma's primary caregivers. They'd been showing up to parent-teacher meetings without telling me, discussing Emma's schoolwork and behavior, as if they were her legal guardians. It felt like they were intentionally cutting me out, but it didn't stop there. Later that week, I took Emma to her pediatrician for a routine checkup, only to find out that my parents had already spoken to the doctor too. They had been coordinating with the pediatrician about her health, vaccinations, and even brought up changes in her diet that I hadn't agreed to. I felt like I had no control over my own daughter's care. How long had they been doing this? How deep did this go? I confronted them about it, but they were calm and collected. almost like they had been expecting it. I thought they would back down, but instead, they handed me a stack of documents they had been compiling, meticulous records of every single thing I had done wrong as a parent. They had notes on every time I was late picking Emma up from school, every school event I couldn't make because of work, and every time they stepped in to help because I couldn't. They even documented my financial struggles in detail. It was terrifying. I didn't know they had been keeping tabs on me like this, and they made it look like I was constantly dropping the ball as a parent. Then came the blow from their lawyer. My parents' lawyer presented all this information to the court, making it seem like they were the ones holding everything together for Emma, financially and emotionally. They brought up how they had been paying for Emma's after-school activities, her medical bills, and even some of her school supplies. The way they framed it, they made it seem like I was completely dependent on them to provide a stable life for Emma. My lawyer started to express doubts. She warned me that Emma's dependency on my parents, financially and emotionally, could sway the judge's decision in their favor. I could lose this case. As if that wasn't enough, my parents started tearing down my character in court. They called me irresponsible, saying I was always putting work ahead of Emma. They dug up an old DUI I got when I was 21. It was a huge mistake, and I've been sober for years, but they brought it up like it was proof that I couldn't be trusted to take care of my own daughter. It didn't help that my ex was called in as a witness. He admitted that I had struggled to balance work and motherhood, which just added more fuel to their fire. Things got worse when they questioned Emma's teachers. While none of them outright said I was unfit, they did mention that Emma seemed more at ease when her grandparents were involved. It was like they were slowly painting this picture that Emma was better off with them. On top of that, my social media came back to haunt me. Their legal team dug through my Facebook and Instagram, pulling up old pictures of me out with friends or at events, claiming I was more focused on socializing than being a mom. None of the photos were inappropriate, but they twisted it to make me look bad. It started to work too. Friends and family, people who used to support me, started taking sides. Many of them believed my parents were just trying to do what was best for Emma. They've always been seen as these perfect grandparents, and I was beginning to look like the one who couldn't keep her life together. The worst moment came when I overheard a conversation between my parents and Emma. They were talking to her in this soft, sweet tone, asking her how she would feel if she lived with them full-time. They didn't outright say it, but they made it sound like it would be so much easier for her. No more back and forth between houses, no more stress. I felt like they were manipulating her, planting these ideas in her head. It was subtle, but I knew what they were doing. To make matters worse, Emma's therapist, someone I thought was on my side, raised concerns about the impact this custody battle was having on her. The therapist said that Emma was showing signs of anxiety, particularly when transitioning between my home and my parents. It was like the walls were closing in, and everyone, even the therapist, was siding with my parents. Then I made a huge mistake. During a family meeting, I completely lost my temper. I couldn't take it anymore, the manipulation, the constant undermining. I raised my voice, and of course, my parents documented it. Their lawyer brought it up in court, painting me as unstable. The judge gave me a stern warning, saying that any further emotional outbursts could impact the final decision. To top it all off, Emma started asking me why mommy and grandma were fighting so much. She's only 6, and it's breaking her heart. It's breaking mine too. I'm starting to wonder if fighting this battle is doing more harm than good. I'm desperate for advice now. Has anyone been through something like this? How do I prove that my parents are manipulating Emma without losing her completely? I don't know how much more of this I can take, and I feel like I'm running out of options. Update 2. I never thought I'd be writing this, but everything has spiraled even further out of control. Emma, my own daughter, told me she doesn't want to live with me anymore. It started during what I thought was going to be a normal weekend with her. I picked her up from my parents' house, and she seemed quiet, more distant than usual. After dinner, she just sat there, looking uncomfortable. I asked her if everything was okay, expecting the usual kid stuff, school, friends, maybe she was tired. Instead, she looked me in the eyes and said, "I think I want to live with grandma and grandpa all the time. It's less stressful there." Hearing those words crushed me. I didn't even know how to respond. I sat there in silence while Emma explained that things were calmer at my parents' house. She didn't have to go back and forth between homes, and my parents didn't argue with each other like I did with them. It hit me hard because, in her eyes, living with them full-time felt easier. I knew my parents had been manipulating her, subtly making it seem like life would be better with them, but hearing Emma say it out loud was like a dagger to the heart. A few days later, things got worse. Emma's therapist submitted a report to the court, stating that Emma's anxiety was increasing due to the custody battle. The therapist recommended that Emma stay in a more stable environment with fewer transitions. It felt like another blow, another person siding with my parents, but I couldn't ignore the fact that Emma was suffering. It's like the whole situation was pulling her apart, and no matter what I did, it just kept getting worse. Emma's grades started to slip too. Her teacher sent me a report, and my parents wasted no time in using it as more evidence against me. They claimed that the instability of going between 2 homes was affecting Emma's schoolwork, and of course they pointed the finger at me. In their minds, if I hadn't insisted on keeping shared custody, none of this would be happening. It didn't matter that I was fighting to stay in Emma's life. They saw it as me making things worse. Then, my lawyer hit me with the worst news yet. Emma's confession about wanting to live with my parents could play a significant role in the judge's final decision. Even though she's only 6, the court takes her feelings into account, and her preference for living with my parents might tip the scales in their favor. It felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling. The court stepped in quickly after that. My visitation rights were temporarily reduced. Until the custody case is settled, Emma will be spending the majority of her time with my parents. I couldn't believe it. I I went from seeing her every other weekend to barely getting any time at all. It felt like they were already taking her from me, one piece at a time. I couldn't handle the stress. It all hit me at work one day, and I completely broke down. I ended up having an emotional meltdown in the middle of the day, and my boss sent me home on forced leave. Of course, this only gave my parents more ammunition. Now they could argue that I wasn't even emotionally stable enough to hold a job, let alone raise a child. Every misstep, every moment of weakness they used against me. Social services got involved next. A social worker visited my parents' home to interview Emma and check on her living situation. My worst fears were confirmed when the report came back. Emma seemed happier and more comfortable at my parents' house. The social worker noted that she appeared relaxed, even thriving, in their care. My parents had painted this perfect picture of stability, and I was starting to feel like I had no chance of fighting them. It was around this time that I discovered something chilling, this whole custody battle. It wasn't a recent decision. My parents had been planning this for a long time, possibly years. They had been gathering evidence, documenting every little mistake I made as a mother, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was a calculated move, and I never saw it coming. The stress started to take a toll on my health. Panic attacks became a regular part of my life, and I couldn't sleep. I was barely functioning, so I finally went to the doctor, who recommended therapy. I never thought I'd need it, but I had to admit that I was falling apart. The worst part is my friends, who had been supporting me at first, started to pull away. They said they were worried about my mental health and the impact this custody battle was having on everyone involved. One by one, they began distancing themselves, leaving me feeling more isolated than ever. We tried mediation as a last-ditch effort, hoping to avoid a full-on court battle, but it didn't work. My parents wouldn't budge. They were convinced that Emma belonged with them, and they refused to even consider a compromise. They truly believe they're the best option for Emma, and nothing I say or do can change that. Emma's testimony in court is coming up, and I'm terrified. I know she'll say that she wants to live with my parents full-time. I don't blame her. It's not her fault, but knowing that my parents have probably been feeding her these ideas makes it even harder to accept. I thought turning to Reddit would give me some support, but even that's slipping away. Some people are starting to question my decisions, saying maybe my parents are right. Maybe I should just let them take care of Emma. It's hard to read those comments, but part of me wonders if they're right. Maybe I'm holding on too tight and making things worse for Emma in the process. I never thought I'd be in this position, fighting my own parents for the right to raise my daughter. Now, I'm questioning everything. Should I keep fighting? Should I let her stay with them for her own good? I'm lost, and I don't know what to do. Update 3. It happened. The moment I dreaded finally came. Emma had to testify in court about where she wanted to live. I had convinced myself that maybe, just maybe, she would want to stay with me, but deep down I already knew what was coming. Emma was brought into the courtroom. She looked small sitting there, nervously glancing around, not really understanding what was going on but clearly coached on what to say. My parents were sitting across the room, calm and composed, like this was all part of their plan. When the judge asked Emma about where she felt happiest, her answer felt like a punch to the gut. She said she felt more secure and happy at her grandparents' house. Those exact words, secure and happy, sounded way too familiar. It was like she had memorized them. I'd heard my parents use those words before. It was obvious to me that they had been telling Emma what to say. It wasn't her talking, it was them speaking through her. But in that moment, none of that mattered. All the court saw was a child who preferred living with her grandparents. No one cared about why she said it or who put those words in her mouth. After Emma's testimony, the judge decided to limit my visitation rights even further. Now I only get to see Emma for a few hours on the weekends, supervised visits only. It's like they're slowly phasing me out of her life. The judge said it was in Emma's best interest since she seemed to thrive more at my parents' house. Everything about this case has become about what's best for Emma, but no one is considering that she's being manipulated. My lawyer suggested something that I had suspected for a while, that my parents are engaging in parental alienation. They've been slowly turning Emma against me, making themselves look like the safer and more stable option, while painting me as unstable or incapable. But proving that in court is almost impossible. My lawyer explained that we need concrete evidence, and with how carefully my parents have been working behind the scenes, there's very little we can use. It's not just in court either. I overheard my parents talking to Emma after one of our visits. They were telling her things like, "Mommy is trying her best, but she needs to learn how to take care of you better." They framed it in such a way that made them look like the ones holding everything together and me, the one who's always falling apart. Emma's young, but she understands enough to know that something is wrong, and my parents have been feeding her this idea that I'm the problem. Emma's therapist submitted another report, and this one was just as bad as the first. The therapist mentioned that Emma's anxiety seems to be linked to the uncertainty around her living situation. She feels torn between me and my parents, and worse, she feels responsible for choosing sides. The therapist noted that Emma feels safer when she's with her grandparents because she doesn't have to worry about the fighting between me and them. Meanwhile, the few close friends I still had left are starting to drift away. They don't know how to handle this situation. A lot of them have sided with my parents because, on the outside, my parents look like these perfect grandparents who have stepped up to help. I get it. They see my parents provide so much for Emma, and it's hard for them to see the manipulation going on behind the scenes. It's like I'm losing everyone who was once in my corner. The legal bills are piling up, and I'm barely hanging on financially. My parents, on the other hand, seem to have an endless amount of money to throw at this case. Every time we go to court, they have more evidence, more witnesses, more ways to make me look bad. I'm struggling to keep up, and it's only getting worse. To make matters worse, my performance at work has been slipping. The stress of this custody battle is consuming me, and it's starting to show. My boss pulled me aside the other day and warned me that if things don't improve, I might lose my job. It's like every part of my life is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it. Emma's behavior has been changing too. She's been more distant and cold toward me during our visits. It feels like she doesn't want to be around me anymore. She used to run into my arms when I picked her up, but now she barely looks at me. It's like I'm losing her not just in the legal sense, but emotionally too. The bond we used to have is slipping away, and I'm terrified that it's gone forever. The final blow came when a family friend, who I thought would testify on my behalf, ended up siding with my parents. They said they've seen my parents take on more responsibility for Emma over the years, and that they've been more involved in her day-to-day life than I have. It was another stab in the back, and it only made my parents' case stronger. And then the bomb dropped. My parents officially filed for full custody. They're arguing that it's in Emma's best interest to stay with them permanently. It feels like I'm watching my worst nightmare unfold in slow motion, and I can't stop it. I'm starting to question whether I'm even doing the right thing by fighting this. Maybe I'm just making things harder for Emma. I'm desperate. I don't know what else to do. Every day, it feels like my chances of winning are shrinking. My lawyer is doing everything she can, but with the way things are going, I don't see how I'm going to come out of this with any custody rights left. I've been turning to Reddit more and more, hoping for advice, but even here, people are starting to suggest that maybe my parents are right. Maybe Emma is better off with them. It's hard to hear, but part of me wonders if they're right. I need help. How do I prove that my parents are manipulating Emma? How do I even begin to fight this legal system that seems so stacked against me? And most importantly, how do I reconnect with my daughter before I lose her for good? Update 4. Things have gone from bad to worse, and I honestly don't know how much more I can take. My lawyer has been pushing for a drastic shift in our strategy, suggesting we try mediation instead of continuing this brutal fight for full custody. She warned me that if I keep going down this path, I might end up with no custody rights at all. It felt like giving up, but I was willing to try anything to avoid losing Emma completely. But my parents? They shut it down immediately. They refused mediation outright, confident they're going to win full custody in court. Their actions since then have only confirmed what I've feared all along. They're trying to cut me out of Emma's life entirely, and they're acting like they've already won. They're making decisions without consulting me, treating me like I'm just a visitor in my daughter's life. I found out that they've completely rearranged Emma's after-school activities and doctor appointments without even telling me. They've filled her schedule with things they think are best for her, and I didn't even know about it until Emma casually mentioned it during one of our supervised visits. It's like they're running her life, and I have no say anymore. Everything, from her schooling to her health, is now under their control. To make matters worse, I learned that in my state, legal precedent heavily favors grandparents in cases like this, where they've been the primary caregivers for an extended period. My lawyer explained that if grandparents can show they've been providing substantial care, the courts tend to side with them. It's like the law is stacked against me, and I'm terrified that I'm going to lose Emma for good. My parents have become even more involved in Emma's school life. They attend every parent-teacher conference, volunteer for every school event, and make sure they're seen as the responsible, involved guardians. I, on the other hand, have been struggling just to keep up with the basics. Between work, legal battles, and the emotional toll of all of this, I haven't been able to attend every event. They've made sure everyone at the school sees them as the stable, loving grandparents while I'm barely hanging on. We tried filing a countersuit for parental alienation, but my parents' legal team shot it down almost immediately. They argued that they were only acting in Emma's best interest and that there was no proof they were manipulating her. I felt like I was hitting a brick wall at every turn. But then I managed to get something. I recorded a conversation between my parents and Emma where they hinted that my life was too chaotic for her to stay with me full-time. They didn't come right out and say it, but it was clear they were planting the idea in her head that living with me was too unstable. I thought this would be enough to prove they were manipulating her, but my lawyer says it's still not concrete evidence. It might help, but it's not the smoking gun I was hoping for. What's worse, even people online are starting to question if I should just back down and let Emma stay with my parents. Some Redditors are saying that maybe it's in her best interest, that the fight is causing more harm to Emma than good. It's hard to read those comments, but part of me wonders if they're right. Am I just making things worse by holding on? The isolation is getting to me too. Family members who once supported me have started pulling away, aligning themselves with my parents. They see my parents as the stable force in Emma's life, and I feel like I'm being erased, not just from Emma's life, but from my entire family. They've all rallied around my parents, leaving me completely alone. And then came the ultimate heartbreak. Emma refused to come with me during one of my scheduled visits. She told me she's happier at her grandparents' house and doesn't want to leave. I tried to talk to her, but it was clear that whatever my parents have been telling her has sunk in. She doesn't see me as her safe place anymore. It feels like I've already lost her. In a desperate attempt to reach some kind of compromise, I tried to have a heart-to-heart with my parents. I wanted to talk about finding some middle ground, maybe working together for Emma's sake, but it didn't go the way I hoped. Instead of listening, they used the opportunity to accuse me of being too unstable to raise Emma. They turned the conversation into an attack, pointing out every mistake I've made, every moment where I've struggled, and made it clear they believe they're the only ones fit to take care of her. To make matters worse, the story of our custody battle has made its way onto local social media circles, and now I'm the target of online criticism. People who don't even know the full story are calling me unfit, saying I should just let my parents raise Emma. It's humiliating, and it feels like I have no one left in my corner. The stress is starting to impact my job too. I've been so distracted and emotionally drained that I'm barely able to focus at work. My boss has already warned me that if I don't get it together, I'm going to lose my job. If that happens, I'll lose my income and my home, and then I'll have nothing to fight for. It's like my whole life is unraveling, and I can't stop it. The final blow came from Emma's therapist. She recommended less contact between Emma and me, saying that it might help Emma's anxiety. I feel blindsided by this. I thought therapy would be the one place that would help us reconnect, but now even the therapist is suggesting that Emma stay with my parents. It's like everything and everyone is pushing me out of her life. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm at my breaking point. I've turned to Reddit again, hoping for advice. What legal options do I have left? How do I prove my parents are manipulating Emma? And is it time to walk away for her sake? I'm desperate, and I need help before it's too late. Update 5. The final court hearing is just around the corner, and it feels like the outcome is inevitable. I'm going to lose Emma. Everything is falling apart faster than I can keep up. My lawyer has been preparing me for the worst, laying it all out in black and white. My parents have too much evidence stacked in their favor: financial stability, Emma's testimony, and the fact that they've been her primary caregivers for so long. My lawyer says that the courts are likely to see them as the best option for Emma's future, especially since Emma herself said she feels more secure with them. I can't stop replaying those words in my head. More secure. It's like a constant reminder that I've failed as a mother. As if things couldn't get any worse, I lost my job. It wasn't a surprise. My performance has been declining for months now. The stress of the custody battle consumed me, and I couldn't keep it from affecting my work. They let me go a week before the final hearing, and now I'm completely without income. I've run out of options. I can't afford my lawyer anymore, and the only choice I have left is to represent myself. Facing my parents' high-powered legal team on my own feels impossible, but I don't have any other choice. The judge's body language during our last court session told me everything I needed to know. He was sympathetic to my parents. They've built this perfect image of themselves as the stable, responsible guardians, while I've been portrayed as unstable, overwhelmed, and incapable of providing Emma with the life she deserves. I can feel the decision already tilting in their favor, and no matter how hard I try, it seems like there's nothing I can do to stop it. The hardest part is the divide this has caused in my family. It's like my relationship with them is beyond repair. My extended family, people who were once in my corner, have rallied around my parents. They're convinced my parents are saving Emma from a chaotic life, and I'm the outsider now. I'm losing Emma, but I'm also losing my family in the process. And then came the recommendation I never expected. Emma's therapist, the one who I thought was helping us reconnect, submitted a report suggesting that Emma needs a break from the tension between me and my parents. The therapist is essentially recommending that Emma stay with my parents full-time for an extended period, with little to no contact with me. It's like the last bit of hope I had for maintaining a relationship with Emma is slipping through my fingers. I've hit rock bottom emotionally. I've spent hours lying awake at night, wondering if I should just walk away completely. It feels like I'm becoming the villain in my own daughter's life. Like everything I do is only making things worse for her. Maybe my parents are right. Maybe Emma would be better off without me. But how can I just give up on my own child? Then, in the cruelest twist of all, my parents informed me that they plan to petition for the legal right to adopt Emma. They framed it as a way to provide her with permanent stability. But I know what this really means. They're trying to erase me from her life entirely. I never thought it would come to this. My own parents, trying to take my daughter away from me forever. To make matters worse, the story of our custody battle has made its way onto local social media. People who don't even know the full story are jumping to conclusions, spreading rumors, and calling me unfit. I've become the target of online bullying, and it feels like there's no escape. Strangers are making assumptions about my life, my parenting, and painting me as the villain in a story they don't even understand. It's humiliating, and it only adds to the isolation I'm already feeling. Even Reddit, the one place I thought I could turn to for advice, is divided. Some people are telling me that I should let go, that maybe Emma is better off with my parents. Others are urging me to keep fighting, saying I can't let them win. The pressure is overwhelming, and I don't know what to do. Every option feels like the wrong one. Emma's 7th birthday is coming up soon, and I'm devastated to realize that I might not even be able to celebrate it with her. My parents are acting like they're already her legal guardians, planning everything without even considering me. I might not get to see her on her special day, and that thought breaks me more than anything else. It's like I'm losing every piece of her, little by little. The final court hearing is scheduled for next week, and I feel like I'm heading into a losing battle. My parents are preparing to take Emma from me for good, and there's nothing left in my arsenal to stop them. I've lost my job, my financial stability, my support system, and now, I'm on the verge of losing my daughter. I don't know how much more I can handle. I'm desperate for advice. Is there anything I can do? Is there any way to prove that my parents have been manipulating Emma all along? Or should I walk away for Emma's sake and let her live the life my parents have convinced her is better? I don't know what's right anymore, and I feel like I'm drowning. If anyone has been through something like this, please tell me what to do. I'm losing Emma, and I don't know how to stop it.